What's up, you guys? It's your girl Flawless K here, and I'm back with another video. If you read that title, then you already know what this video is going to be about. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to your girl's channel for more great content. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So if you're sitting there wondering, why am I not passing my NCLEX-RN? What am I doing wrong? Someone help me understand. I am that someone, and I am here with 5 tips of why you are not passing your NCLEX-RN. The first reason why you're not passing your NCLEX-RN is because you're only studying questions. You're literally sitting there day in, day out, just doing questions, and you're not studying material. You're not going over that content like you need to. You're just sitting there taking a whole bunch of PEDS questions, sitting there taking a whole bunch of cardiac questions, but you're not actually stopping yourself and reading over the material to get a better understanding. The NCLEX, the bad thing about sitting there taking just questions, you may be taking questions about material that the NCLEX may not necessarily cover, such as if you are learning about different things about the kidneys, for instance, and you're just taking questions and they're asking you about different electrolytes and different this. Well, the NCLEX may not ask you questions about the content that you covered over in the questions that you sat there and taken, and you may have known that the answers to those questions, but you're not really getting a deeper grasp of the whole kidney and different you're not learning and understand a bunch of different content that may be involved when it comes to the kidney. Or you might know a little bit about labor and delivery, and you may be getting some of the labor and delivery questions right, but the NCLEX may not cover some of those things that you are taking your questions on. So it's definitely super important to focus on the content. Because if you know the content and you know everything there is to know about labor and delivery, then you will be able to answer any question that comes your way. So let's not focus too much on answering a bunch of questions, although answering questions is good because you are able to get into that kind of mindset of sitting down and answering questions and figuring out how to process and eliminate. But if you don't know that content, then you aren't going to get that question right. Tip number 2, you are not planning for your NCLEX correctly. I know a lot of people who graduate nursing school and they're like, man, you know, I need to hurry up and take my NCLEX as soon as possible, as soon as I graduate nursing school, so that I don't forget the knowledge and everything that I learned, which is okay, but at the same time, that's not necessarily true. I graduated in May and I didn't take my NCLEX until August, so that's kind of a long time, but I still passed my NCLEX because I kept studying and preparing myself day in and day out. If you keep reviewing material over a long period of time, you're still going to remember it. It's not going to go away if you don't take your exam right away. And then those people who usually do take their exam too quickly, they don't give themselves enough time to study the way they need to, so they end up not passing, versus those who do take that extra time to study a little bit more, thoroughly prepare themselves, then they're better able to sit down and feel more prepared for your NCLEX. This is not a test that you should rush. This is going to determine the rest of your life, the rest of your career as a nurse. So you want to be prepared as much as possible. You don't want to go in there rushing whatsoever or at all. Or you don't want to be that person on the opposite spectrum that I have time, I don't need to rush and take my NCLEX. I graduated in May, I'm just going to chill, relax. I'm not going to take my NCLEX until December. Like, whoa, that may be too long of a wait, because then as time goes by too much, you start to become relaxed. You start to just put off and not be more attentive to your studying the way that you need to, and thus that might also cause you not to pass your NCLEX. So remember, number one, don't strictly do questions, and try to study more content as well. And tip number 2, don't rush to take your NCLEX because you think you might forget everything, but don't wait for a whole year. plus to take your NCLEX. Try to take it within a reasonable amount of time. Tip number 3, you are too focused on passing in 75 questions, okay? You are too focused on that. I know a lot of people who are just like, did you pass in 75 questions? Did you pass in 75 questions? That does not matter. It does not matter. That does not mean you are less of a nurse or better of a nurse if you pass your NCLEX 75 questions, because every single one of our tests is different. We all have different questions, all have different content that your test may cover that her test didn't cover, or his test covered that his test did not cover. So passing in 75 questions does not matter. I did not care. When I sat down and took my NCLEX, I threw that 75 out the window, and I said I will sit here and take as many questions as I need to in order to pass and prove to this computer that I am worthy to be a nurse. Because some people, they're like, man, I want to pass the 75 questions. I want to get in and get out, blah, blah, blah. And then they sit there and it's like 100 questions, 150 questions, 200 questions, 210 questions. And then they start freaking out and they start panicking, and then they start, actually they're almost there, and then they start slowly declining, and then they fail because they get too wrapped up in wanting to pass in 75 questions or less, which might not happen sometimes. With other people, and I took more than 75 questions, and that doesn't make me less of a nurse with anybody else. No one treats me differently because it took me longer than 75 questions to pass my NCLEX. No one will care at the end of the day as long as you have RN or LPN behind your name. Tip number 4, you are not using your critical thinking skills, guys. Your critical thinking skills. You get too much anxiety and you kind of let your anxiety take over you, that you forget everything that you learned and everything that you study because you're not using your critical thinking skills. Literally, the NCLEX is set up to be simple as A, B, C, and D. There are going to be questions on there that you're like, that is absolutely not right. That is absolutely not right. But then there will be 2 questions that look very similar that you're like, could be this, could be that, but you're overthinking it. Don't overthink the questions. Just use your critical thinking skills. If you know that X is supposed to be X, not Y or Z, then choose X, or choose the best answer. We know that nursing questions, it could be, this could be right or this could be right, but what is the best question, the best answer? You know, all those different tips and tricks that you learn while you're studying for your NCLEX, utilize them and use your critical thinking skills. Don't panic just because you may not know the answer to a question, because you're not going to know the answer to many other questions. They're just trying to see, is this person able to think critically about what's going on and choose the best answer? That's exactly all the computer is doing. You're just trying to prove to a computer device that you can think critically. And sometimes when we're taking the NCLEX, people throw all that out the window and they're not thinking about it, and it messes them up, and that causes you to fail because you don't think critically about your answers. So when you get panicked because you don't know the answer of a question, just stop for a minute, take a deep breath, review it again, try to work your way like, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, right? And then choose the best answer that you feel that you can possibly do, because in that point in time, when you're stopping and you're letting all the anxiety float away, you're thinking critically about the question. And if you do that 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the question right. And last but not least, tip number 5 is double check your answers. I don't know if people even take the time to think about this, people even mention this at all, but double check your answers. You are letting your anxiety take over you, and you're just like, click, click, click. Like, no, wait. And I know it sucks. You don't want to sit there for 4 hours or however long they give you, take your exam all day, but why rush your success? Why rush your success? Like, if you just take a moment to be like, hold on, let me read this story one more time. Let me look over my answer choices. Okay, yeah, that's right. click on to the next one. Then maybe you would have a better chance of passing your test in 75 questions or passing it in less than 100 questions if you just take your time and read your choices thoroughly. Don't be no speed demon, because what are you rushing for? What are you trying to get out of there for? Because the faster you're trying to leave, the more likely you are to make a mistake, okay? Because some of those questions I had to be like, oh wait, okay, it's asking me for the opposite effect. I'm glad I read that for a second time, because I would have messed that up and got that easy question wrong. And it could be the easiest questions that you know deep down inside that you knew you could have got that answer right if you would have double checked your answers. You guys, this is your future. This is your life. Take a couple extra seconds, read over your question again, read over your answer choices, match your selection, that everything aligns up perfectly, and then boom, go to the next one. Because the more time you take to make sure you get those few questions correctly, the more likely you will have a better chance of passing your NCLEX. Well, that's it, guys. That's 5 reasons you may not be passing your NCLEX-RN. Don't forget to comment down below if you have any questions, you guys. And if you subscribe to my channel, okay, and like this video, because I will be checking, I will also go ahead and send you some materials that I use to study for my NCLEX-RN and what helped me pass my NCLEX-RN. But you must be subscribed. Subscribe to your girl, and I will definitely send you that information. Don't forget to comment your email down below. Comment any questions you may have. Subscribe and like this video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys. Mwah.